As requested, I thought I'd jump on quickly and do a quick tutorial to show you how to change the colour of things in Photoshop. I'll do two techniques, well they're the same technique, but I will do the simple colour change, which is I'll change the colour of my red dress to a different colour, and then a slightly, and it's only very slightly more complicated colour change of the black discs. I'll change them to a different colour as well, as you would have seen in one of my posts that I did recently. It's only slightly more complicated because black isn't seen as a colour within Photoshop, so you just have to add an extra click in, but we'll come to that in a minute. I'm going to start off by changing the colour of my dress. So there are several ways, as with everything in Photoshop, to approach this. The way I like to do it is to, with my layer selected, head up to your adjustments panel over here and select the hue saturation adjustment layer. Excuse me. Because the colour that I want to change is red, I'm going to come up to where it says master here and change that to reds, because I only really want to affect the reds. And I will then, the most straightforward way really of doing it is to come and change your slider here, so you can just change it to whichever colour you want. Now there are obviously other colours, other reds rather, within this image, but we'll deal with them in a minute. So just get the colour of the dress where you want it. So let's go for a nice yellow. I do like yellow. You can fiddle with the saturation here, and then the kind of lightness or darkness of the colour here. So I'll leave it like that. And then so I've got the colour of my dress right, and then all I need to do now is to remove the adjustment layer from the areas that I don't want to be affected. So with the white box selected, which is your mask, make sure I've got my pen tool and black selected. I want a very hard brush, although I might take it down a touch. And then to begin with, I'm just going to make a massive brush because I can make big sweeping motions over the bulk of it. Obviously I want to be a bit more careful around me. And I'm just masking away the areas that were affected, that I didn't want to be affected by the adjustment layer. So now I'm going to zoom in. I do that by pressing Alt and then scrolling with my mouse, but you can use the magnifying glass tool down here. And then I'm just going to reduce the size of my brush by pressing the square brackets. You can do it up in the brush panel up here, but I prefer to use the keyboard shortcuts. And then if you want to drag the picture around when you're zoomed in, you press spacebar and you get your little hand tool. So now we're zoomed in, we can just kind of do the more detailed work, getting right in for the really close-up bits, and just taking away the colour that we don't want. Now don't worry, like you see here, I've gone over a little bit, don't worry about that for now. We can go over that in our final retouching, and because I'm doing a mask, we're working non-destructively, which means that any adjustments or any rubbing out rather that I do here, I can easily put back in again if I need to, by just painting on with the white brush tool. So I'll come to that in a second. So we just work our way down, making sure we've got all of the areas that we don't want to be affected. I spend far too much time looking at my face close-up these days. Then we just come in and as neatly as possible get up to the edge. I'm going to rush a little bit because I don't want to keep you all day. Just wanted to show you the technique. I'm not going to do it as perfectly as I would if I was creating a post. But there we go. Oh, got to be a bit careful there. In fact, that whole background should be painted differently. So let's come in. Actually, it shouldn't be, because my dress is creating a red shadow there and I don't want that. So perfect excuse to show you how to undo the cutout that you've done, so just change your brush to white and then you can paint that back in again. So I'm just going to go right in there, paint it back in, and then flip back just to sort my chin out again. Anyway, I won't spend too long on this, but now you can see that by adding that hue saturation adjustment layer, we've turned the dress from red to yellow. So now I'm going to do the discs. It's basically exactly the same, so I go and select the layer. This time I'm going to select the disc to begin with, just because it's such a solid colour, it's quite straightforward to do it. I used the Magic Wand tool there, which just is a quick selection tool. You can change the tolerance of it to select more or less, but I tend to stick with 20, select what I can, and then go into the other selection tools to add to the selection if I need to, which you can see I need to here. So by holding down Shift you can add to a selection. So I'm just holding down Shift and dragging and clicking to grab all those bits of the image that weren't already selected. And there we have it. It's not perfect, but a reasonable selection of the disc. Now we select that hue saturation adjustment layer again, and you can see that it's already masked out the everything barring the disc. You could have done this on the dress, by the way. You could have selected it first if you'd wanted to. I just find it quicker to do it the other way. And if I were to just straightforward change the hue saturation, you can see it changing on the highlight there, but the rest of the disc isn't really changing colour, and that's because it's a solid black. So what we do, which is the only thing that's different to what we did last time, is we select Colorize, and that just adds, it makes Photoshop see it as colour, adds a bit of colour to it, and then once there is a colour there you can change the hue and saturation, etc. of that colour. So let's say we want this to be a kind of cute baby blue-ish colour. We select that hue, we up the saturation a little bit because that's how I'd like it to be, and then we up the lightness, and that's where you really see it starting to come through. So you can see it's kept all of the detail of the record. It's not like you're painting over it, it's literally just changing the tones of it. And then if I were to do this for an actual edit, I'd go in and mask out these edges where the selection didn't get them quite right, but for the purposes of this tutorial and for being quick, I shan't. But that's it. It's quite a straightforward procedure. There is kind of more in depth. You can go into this tool. Oh God, what am I doing? But for quick basic colour changes, I find that works pretty well. I hope this has helped. Let me know if you have any questions on it, or if you'd like me to cover any other techniques. I'm slowly building a list of ones I'm going to try and get out for you ASAP. Hope you're having a lovely day, evening, morning, whenever it is you're watching this, and I will be back on here again soon. Bye!